Okay, so just by way of introducing this story, I would just like to set this up by saying there are weeks where there's a lot to talk about in the news, and I feel very jazzed to get on and record. There are weeks where there's a lot to talk about in the news, but I feel it's everything's so depressing and awful. How do I wring entertainment out of this? Then there are weeks where there's really nothing going on, and I'm like, oh, okay, gotta fill an hour. What are we gonna talk about? Then there are days where one news story happens, and I am chomping at the bit to get on the mic because this is just pure fucking gold. And I'm talking about the Chabad tunnels, folks. The folks, they're digging tunnels in Crown Heights. A schismatic group of Lubavitchers in Crown Heights, mere blocks away from the apartment I lived in when this show started many, many years ago, have basically been recreating the Great Escape. And I don't know, Felix. Okay, so we've all seen the video of that dude popping out from the sidewalk like a Koopa Trooper. Felix, when I saw this video, someone replied to me with an image that's been stuck with me, and I'd like to share it with you. It said, as soon as I saw that video of that guy popping out of the sidewalk, they just got a sense that across the country in Los Angeles, Felix was bolt awake in his bed, eyes the size of dinner plates, like Scatman Crothers in The Shining, just because the Dybbuk soul has been activated, and you just sense that you sense trouble on the East Coast. And then, lo and behold, they're going up. They're digging a secret tunnel to be closer to Mosaic.
So I saw that Hasid exiting the sewer, the grate.
Yes,
it was just a grate on the sidewalk.
The grate.
Yeah.
That was Mosaic. They were right. They didn't say how he'd come back. He crawls out of crawling out of the sewer. It's so bad.
So I got sent that video when it had 200 likes on it. Brace sent it to me. And I had to I sat in total silence for 2 hours because I was this has to have really happened. I have to let it sink in. I have to process this and sit on this for a little while, because if I reference this event and it's this is just a quantum event, this didn't happen in our reality, I am going to sound horrible.
Yes.
If I think I'm quote tweeting what I perceive to be a video of a Jewish man exiting a sewer grate and running away, and I'm I describe it and I quote tweet it, and it's really it's like Samsung advertising a new phone. Some quantum event happened. People are going to go, what the fuck are you talking about? That's the most bigoted thing I've ever heard. So I really had to sit with it. And once I did, and I examined the full thread, so I think everyone's attention got captured by the guy exiting the sewer. But to me, the best part is when the situation before that, when it devolves and the guy, 20 guys go in the hole. 20 guys go in the tunnel, because it started off there were no arrests. There was just pushing and shoving, and the cops were you can't. What the fuck are you doing? You can't build a tunnel that goes into other people's backyards. You can't have someone who owns a brownstone and they go downstairs to cook breakfast, and they're wiping the sleep off their eyes, and they're making drip coffee, and they see just that cat poking out of a little hole in their backyard. That's the scariest thing I could ever imagine. They're you can't do that, and they're oh yeah. And they start fucking walling. They all go in these holes that you didn't see before. They all go.
They're wall hacking.
They're no clipping. They're moving throughout the fucking building, and the cops. These were all Italian Guido cops.
It was the Roman Empire in Judea, circa 1 AD.
Yeah. Unlike the Romans, they had no idea what they were getting into. And
no,
they are
the cop was just we gotta clear out the shul. Can we get everyone out of the shul, please?
Little Semitic prairie dogs just popping up has to have been the most confusing thing. You would have to, Felix is right. This is like if Der Stürmer had like Looney Tune animations.
Yeah. Well, Felix, to your point about like having to sit on this, because like if you just start talking about a video of acidic guys popping out of the sewer in Brooklyn, people will think that you're crazy. I want to highlight. I want to highlight one aspect of the story
written about me.
Okay, yeah. This is from the Jewish Chronicles. This is the first paragraph in their write up of it. It says, 3 weeks ago, a New York resident started hearing sounds in his walls. Unlike most people who begin to hear sounds in his walls, he wasn't imagining it. Now, Felix, I'm imagining that person because, like, until this was confirmed, if you just said, I can hear rabbis speaking Yiddish in my walls at night, you would sound like the most anti-Semitic person on the planet.
But, or just a really religious Jew that had a seizure and now thought he's like, in contact with someone. It was just like the most like, well, how many New Yorkers do you think call the police and say, I hear voices in my walls? And this is the one time they're like, you know what, maybe we should take this seriously.
They're probably the reason there were so many cops there is there probably is an NYPD code for, Yiddish coming out of my walls. That's good. You're right. It's probably like a common schizophrenic thing. But no, this really happened. I imagine that guy, I imagine him as sort of like a young professional who's like, he's so afraid of getting fired for saying this that he's like, I think I just became schizophrenic. I think I'm just having visions. I've got to just take as much lithium as possible because there's no way that's fucking happening. But no, there were rabbis no clipping through his house.
My first thought was like, I would be like, well, there goes my mind. I was finally, I knew it was going to happen one day. I guess I just live with this now. The main thing that surprised me is that it appears that like they dug the tunnels themselves. And I just figured they would outsource it.
Well, no, because to outsource it, even to shady subcontractors or guys you hire from Home Depot, like this is so off books that they're not even doing that. Like I said, they are reenacting the Great Escape. When they dug those tunnels, they were called Tom, Dick, and Harry. This one was referred to as Tav, Dav, and Hadassah.
But I loved so these are like lovingly homemade tunnels. These were no excavator was used. Those like little plastic shovels you get on a sandbox when you're a toddler. I feel like they use that. It's so uneven and weird. I love the video because it's like they have like all Chabads have like a gang of like 20 somethings, like tons of young men who are just like raring to go, and they have like just this mob of these guys, and they're yelling at the cops. I can't make out what they're saying, but it's like I imagine that they're saying like, we deserve a tunnel. What else could you be saying?
I just want to read a little bit more from the news account of this. So it says here, a small group of young agitators, according to Chabad chairman Yehuda Krinsky, had been digging a tunnel underneath 770 Eastern Parkway, the global headquarters of Chabad. The tunnels were discovered and the Chabad movement took steps to close them off. Last night, the situation escalated. Videos across social media showed the interior of the Chabad house being torn apart, revealing a tunnel entryway the yeshiva students occupied, claiming they wanted to study there. A Hasidic man clambered out of what appeared to be a sewer system around the corner from the house, and a hapless police officer was recorded telling the Lubavitchers he wanted to shut down the whole shul.
I want to clear the whole shul up. Whole shul? Why is that? They want to fix this tonight. They need the shul cleared. And to... Why? You need too expensive something. You got it, but not like this. Apartment of buildings. Not safe. We don't do that in America.
I love the details. Like, why were we digging the tunnel? We wanted to study there, of course. We wanted to study in the hole in the ground that we fucking.
That is the most plausible part, though. Like, we want to go underground to do homework.
I have to say, the person that sent me this was Dr. Brace Belden. We were both working on new research on this. And we came to the early conclusion that this is a space for Hasidic men to smoke crank and employ sex workers. Because Hasidic men have vices like anyone else, right? But there's a special thing. There's a carve out where it's like, okay, I can smoke crack, but I have to do it in a weird hole so God won't see it. It's true. It's true. Anyone, like, I don't think it's at a much higher rate than other people. Like, everyone has vices, like I said, but like Hasidic men do everyone else's vices in the weirdest locations you can think of. And that is like, when I think of a vast underground system, that's what I think it's for.
Just smoking crank and sucking off men.
Yeah.
Isn't the last like porno theater it's in Queens or something, and it's just like exclusively hot seats?
Yeah. No, yeah. It's they need. Talk about a third space.
Well, as best this is like, basically this boils down to like a question, a sort of like a disputed ownership of what is like is what is described as the Mecca of the Chabad movement worldwide. Like on Eastern Parkway, it's like their world headquarters, and there's some sort of like dueling proprietary claims about like which rabbi owns this space. And as best as I understand it, the genesis of this of the tunnel brawl was that it's this group of young men who were sort of like a totally inscrutable different sect of the Chabad movement, who believe that the previous head of the Eastern Parkway, the rabbi who presided over it, Rabbi Schneerson, who is in their eyes Mosaic. He is the ancient man, if you're ever in Crown Heights, that they put on posters and placards to say Mosaic is here. He died like 10 years ago, but they think he's still alive, and apparently they dug this tunnel to get closer to the ritual bath in which he bathed himself. Still with me?
Well,
Still following the story?
It's not fucking international waters. You're underground.
Yeah, no, I like the idea that it's like homesteading if you go into the walls or the land underneath the property. It's
Right.
just, up for anyone. But
go down, young man.
Yeah.
As Matt might say, now that the It's Free real estate is done above ground, the last frontier of America is subterranean.
As I understand it, Will, the main schism here is that the tunnel guys their sect is into explicitly saying that guy is Mosaic, and then the anti-tunnel guys are into just implying it.
Yeah.
That's how Steph, who I interviewed about the AMI bombing, described it to me. He's an expert.
It's very Protestant, right? They have like bumper stickers that say like, he's, around or whatever. I don't remember what it actually says, but there's a ton of those, dented vans, like with that bumper sticker on it. I still don't totally understand how it relates to going underground. And I do like the fact that when the police arrived, they all just went Real Housewives and started just like flipping tables as if those were going to be barricades or something. It was the weirdest confrontation I think I have ever seen.
Yeah, that is the best way to describe it. An incomprehensible confrontation. And Amber, I saw an argument on like Crown Heights, like a local message board, where one Jewish guy is like, "This is great. I love the tunnels. Mosaic is here." Like, no, not connecting the two thoughts. It's just like, it's supposed to be one of those things like, it's raining, therefore, there are clouds in the sky. Like, obviously the tunnels are here. Mosaic is here. One would not be here without the other. And then the guy underneath him is like, "Look, buddy, I think the tunnels are okay, but we know the Messiah is here. You sound crazy."
It's so bonkers that it just reminds me of sitting around like Thanksgiving, and everyone would be talking about like the weather or changing their tires or I don't know, firewood or whatever rednecks talk about. And then like randomly out of nowhere, some elderly aunt would be like, any day now. Meaning Jesus is coming back any day. Like just a non sequitur. It was very Protestant to just have those non sequiturs in there. Everything about it is so weird that the NYPD, who, we'll say are thoroughly trained in like subduing
Crowd
large
dispersal.
groups of people,
Yeah.
they just looked confused.
They had no idea what to do. They had no idea what to do. The footage of like you said, Felix, in a past life, that NYPD guy like trying to cajole the Lubavitchers was like a Roman centurion. Because he looks like the most Italian guy ever. And he goes, look, he goes, are you from Israel? And he goes, oh, I can't even understand what the guys are saying to him. But he goes, are you from Israel? And then he goes, looks at him and goes, we don't do that here in America. You need some sort of bonded tradesman to do structural work on a building. Because apparently they were digging the tunnel and they started doing this back during COVID, apparently. Like I said, and I keep thinking of The Great Escape. And like how the houses, like they wear the wool coats year round. I think this is all just a con so that they can like sneak out the dirt that they're shoveling out of this tunnel and dispersing it on Eastern Parkway, so no one gets the wiser as to what they're up to. But if I could just read a little bit more from this, it says here, about 6 months ago, it appears that a group of yeshiva students associated with the Messianic movement began to dig tunnels, connecting the synagogue with an unused mikveh to gain unauthorized access to 770. When the Chabad authorities learned of the illegal tunnel network, which could have threatened the integrity of the buildings above it, they called in a cement truck to fill in the tunnels. It was the arrival of the truck, which began pouring cement into the open tunnel, that caused the chaos. In the resulting conflict, at least 10 arrests were made by the NYPD, who evacuated the shul and locked the doors yesterday evening. The tunnels are now being filled in. Rabbi Yehuda Krinsky, chairman of Chabad, said, these odious actions will be investigated and the sanctity of the synagogue will be restored. He also gave thanks to the NYPD for their professionalism and sensitivity. I mean, and apparently they were digging the tunnel under the under the women's mikveh. So I'm just saying, like, at the next service, like the women's half of the synagogue is just going to fall through the fucking floor.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do after they're on the rag? That's a whole issue. They got nothing now. They got, you know what? I'm just saying, I think it might be a patriarchal religion. They don't even let you do the thing that you have to do. And also, there's no way that guy didn't know it was happening. Zero.
Yeah.
Oh no, some young agitator. No fucking way.
I love the idea that like their solution to this problem was like, we need to study the Viet Cong. We need a tunnel system. We need a fucking tunnel system. We need to put Poogie sticks outside where the cantor lives. We need to take him out. We need to fucking suicide bomb the guy who sells HTC phones in this neighborhood. Just like how I don't understand how the tunnels connect to the Messiah returning. I don't understand how like they're like, okay, we have this dispute with this guy. Let's do what Bugs Bunny did to Florida. Yeah. Let's just saw this building so it falls through the fucking earth.
South America, take it away.
He took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and just like a fucking mikvah bath with a bunch of naked ass Jewesses falls on his fucking head. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. Also, these Jews have not had a history of manual labor for like 100 years. I like to think I'm a pretty handy person. I don't know if I could do a Great Escape style tunnel without fearing it collapsing on my head.
Amber, necessity is the mother of invention. And like if you build it, a mosaic will come. That's what I'm learning about these tunnels. And you keep saying, I don't understand it. Amber, it's not for you to understand. And this is really what I gotta say.
It's a closed cultural practice. Yeah.
I wouldn't say they are like necessarily have an aptitude for traditional manual labor or like being handy in a traditional sense where something breaks and you repair it in a way that makes sense. But they will engage in it if it's part of like an insane multi-step scheme that makes no sense. Like we knew a guy in New York who he had his group of friends was incredible. It was like a focus group. You'd go to his house and he would have like a 57-year-old Latino repairman, like a black comedian in his mid-20s, a youngish Hasidic guy, a 45
a woman wearing a hijab with a prosthetic leg.
Yeah, it was insane. It was awesome. He just totally organically knew all these people. But the Hasid guy there, he talked to me one time, and he explained how in like a 400-step plan, how you can smoke in a rental car and they'll end up giving you $35. and like,
okay,
and
this I gotta know.
that all is to say that, like, you know, maybe these guys aren't, like, in their day-to-day lives wouldn't be excavating, but if it's part of an insane plan in service of $45 that works out to like half a cent per like hour of labor over the course of 3 years, they'll do it.
Yeah. And again, all they do is study. So, you know, they've probably got some like, you know, how to DIY YouTube videos up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like those videos are guys in India like build a pool with their hands.
The most soothing thing in the world.
Yeah. But what I want to say, like, overall about this story is that, like, I want to really like thank the Lubavitchers and the Chabad community in New York, because like for gifting us with this, like, what will be probably the funnest story of 2024, because I got a feeling the rest of this year is going to be all bad probably. For gifting us the funnest story of 2024, but I guess I want to say, like, I have to admit to a certain grudging respect for the Hasidic community in New York City, despite the fact that I regard them to be a group of malingering women and children abusers. There's something about the fact that, like, everyone else in New York City is like so stressed out all the time and just ground down by like the chore of having to live in New York City and to get along with everyone and make rent and fucking, like, you know, just it's just a constant rat race. But you got to give it to them. They are just doing their own thing. They don't give a fuck about anything else. They don't give a, they're too blessed to be stressed. They don't give a fuck about building permits to fucking dig a tunnel. They don't care about structural integrity. You remember when COVID was going on and they were just having like 9,000 person indoor funerals?
Yeah.
It's sort of like you just have to tip your cap at a certain point and just be like, you know, they're doing their thing and they don't give a fuck about anything else.
Centrally located libertarians, which is the weirdest thing to me. Like, I understand the Amish and the Mennonites. Like, they live outside of town. They got their own thing going. But to do that exact same thing in the middle of the densest metropolis in the country is, I mean, they figured out how to section themselves off without the benefit of geography. They're just full on libertarian. It would be like if Waco was in Crown Heights. It's so weird.
It's like downtown Dallas. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Like, I'm kind of where you're at, where like previous things that like upset me, and it's like, look, I think it's bad to be like, hey, woman who I have 9 kids with, you can't have the Android phones that aren't listed anywhere else. You're not allowed to contact the outside world. You can't leave. I think it's bad to do that. I think a lot of stuff they do is bad, but this has kind of won me over.
I remember the first time, I saw them, though. It was like moving here, and there was a woman, like, freshly shaved head, like she had just got out, and there was protest because they were trying to they said, well, in halakhic law, women can't have smartphones, and like this woman, that's what the protest is about. This woman who had just left, shaved head, was holding up a sign that says, sorry to bring down the room, but it said, a cell phone never raped me. It's like, oh, this is dark shit.
Yeah. But that's why I think this is good, because it's like, instead of like, you know, abuse and a culture of silence and like, you know, like beating up any black kid who's unfortunate enough to like bike through the neighborhood at night, this is like good silent film type mischief. This is the type of thing they need to get into. And I have to say, I love the idea of hollowing out all the infrastructure and the foundation and everything around the women's part of the building, because when they fall through the earth, there's just going to be forever. There's just going to be a huge hole in the ground filled with wigs. There's going to be a canyon of wigs in New York that everyone can come and see. It'll be a new wonder of the world.
Just 100. I do love that they went with like the 63 Jackie O with the pillbox hat. It's just going to be those exact wigs with pillbox hats, which might give them an amazing, like that could save their lives if they hit bottom. It might be like one of those things when you slide out of an airplane.
Yeah, they're incredibly thick. They're very, I think they deflect at least most small arms fire.
Well, I mean, like, look, I think other communities in New York City should like sort of like take from this example and do some sort of unlicensed infrastructure work on the city. Like, I'm currently considering a project to tunnel into the club basement because they turned me away at the door for being too old and heterosexual to get into this club. So I'm currently engaging in, I'm like Charles Bronson in The Great Escape, basically. I'm getting into that fucking club. I don't care.